So without any doubt, we know Wolverine is coming to the MCU.
Oh yeah, they're all over the place.
It's billion-dollar franchise, Wolverine, literally. So, some people consider and are willing to say, and put money down on it at this point, they're so content on it, that Wolverine will in fact not be Logan, but that they're going to jump straight to X-23. Doesn't that not make sense?
It doesn't. I can see it. I can see a passing of the torch
down the road.
Yes, down the road. But the one Wolverine is not timeless, but he's he's a slow aging person who has been sitting there and could have been throughout a lot of our history, as he is in the comics.
Yeah.
And you can't just sit there and bypass him like that, being like, we're just going to go straight to X-23, or we're going to go straight to Logan's son. Like,
yeah, you can't use Dakin, you can't use, X-23. And here's the issue with this. If you just introduce female Wolverine, X-23 is a clone.
Yeah.
So we're back at the issue of who's she a clone of, unless you want to reinvent her complete character. And then if you introduce, let's say, X-23 as Wolverine, you just call her Wolverine, because that's what she is in the comics. Then you're going, okay, well, you have to change her entire backstory to the point she's not the same character anymore.
She's not Wolverine anymore.
So, I guess here's where this comes from. We know Marvel Studios wants to put more female-led characters in the MCU, which makes sense. They've been doing a good job of setting it up for the next couple of years with She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, and more down the road. But realistically, you can't do this because of story narratives. That'd be like if you introduced Terry McGinnis as Batman, but never have Bruce Wayne been Batman. You're like, how does this story for Batman Beyond work? It's a passing of the torch, of the mantle, of the future, person taking that name and mantle and representing it.
Yeah, making the mantle and the name a timeless thing.
Right.
Not just the person. Yeah, you have to have Wolverine. And I know a lot of people out there are like, well, nobody can do a better job than Hugh Jackman. It's because we've only known Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. He's not ever the voice, though, of Wolverine. You guys loved the different cartoon adaptations of Wolverine.
Stephen Blum is the most popular one that does it. I might be wrong on that one, but, that's the thing. And this would be my argument against it, though, or for it. Let's say they bring us Wolverine.
Okay.
And it is X-23.
Yes.
And she appears in next Avengers, whatever. Or Blade, or I don't know where they're going to shove her, right? Like, she just appears, and you're like, wait a second. And then they're like, she comes in, she's like, oh, I'm a clone of my father, Logan. And then we get a Wolverine trilogy that's set before, so you could have him during World War II, during Vietnam, during Hiroshima, and all these battles in the 80s. You could place him throughout it. Again, they're willing to do prequels. I could see it working out this way, but then again, he'd have to appear in modern day. So if he appears as older Logan, and then you do a trilogy in the past, fine. But then what do you do with her? You can't do 2 Wolverine trilogies.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
That is awkward, unless you do it as X-23 and you don't name her Wolverine, so that you're not running into that whole, kind of issue of 2 franchises that are the same name but different characters. It's going to be an interesting one to see how they do go and play out. Guarantee you, X-23 is coming.
Oh God, yeah.
I can definitely see even the son coming around, because they do a real big push on him on a lot of the mobile games. So that's a character that you can't just sit there and be like, we're never going to touch him. You have endless years ahead of you.
If I was to be running this franchise and they were to ask me, what do you want to do? I'd be like, well, first up, I want Logan as Wolverine, and I want flashbacks to different time periods, because I can sell more action figures, and that's how you sell it. Yeah. And then you go, so we're going to cast a 30-year-old person. We're going to scan them for CG, and we're going to have them remain semi-looking the same for the next 15 years. And by the time we get to Wolverine 5, and it's making $2 billion alone in the box office, we'll introduce the clone concept. And then we bring in his son, and then we bring in X-23, and they can have a story fighting for the mantle of Wolverine, or both taking it on and trying to represent the father's legacy. Because that's really what it's about. You don't just jump into legacy characters without introducing the original. That'd be like if they introduced Hawkeye as Kate Bishop without ever having Hawkeye. Like, you'd be like...
People would be real upset about that.
That's not how it works. That's such a backwards way of doing everything that's not Marvel Studios.
And especially if you look right now, like what's happening with what we're anticipating the Black Widow movie is. It's her passing the torch to a unknown Black Widow that we are going to be seeing a future of. So even if they were to do one Wolverine movie and introduce X-23 in that, I feel like it would be too rushed.
Too soon.
Like, you have to have at least, like, 2 movies minimum, I'm saying, of Wolverine by himself. Maybe you do, like, Wolverine by himself in one movie. Wolverine meets the X-Men. Obviously, it's not going to sound like that cartoony kind of name. But then after that, introduce X-23 and go that type of path. Introduce his son, maybe, like...
Or, if you want to really get out there and have the best of everything, you have Logan going, you have his story, and then you multiverse X-23 in for a crossover. Ooh. Be like, this is another... You could even bring back the girl from Logan.
Yes.
She's way older now. Bring her back and be like, look, she's from another universe. She's another Wolverine. Let's test it out. And if audiences like it, you can keep her in there. Deadpool is going to appear eventually.
Yeah.
He has relations to Wolverine. So there is a way to handle it a smart way. But you don't literally just jump into that. Like, can you imagine if they just jumped into Sam Wilson or Bucky as Cap and never gave us Steve Rogers? Like, can you imagine the biggest disconnect?
Backlash?
Like,
that would be... You want to know how to make a negative movie? Like, a movie somehow that makes negative profit and, like, Disney's, like, paying people back? Like, that's how you would do it.
Yeah, it's a backwards way, and that's not Kevin Feige's way.
No.
And again, everybody that's involved with Marvel Studios, from Bob Iger to Kevin Feige to even the Russo brothers who aren't involved anymore, they're like, we can't wait to do Wolverine and Logan. It's like...
Well, like, that is the Russo brothers' favorite character, and that's the one character that they're like, we'll be back. You tell us when we can make this movie, we'll come back. So we definitely need to have Logan first.
Yeah.
You cannot just jump in and do X-23 or his son or any other character that comes after him. You have to have him first. And we're going to have him not as part of the X-Men at first, people. Like, that's how it's going to have to be, because that's
the proper way. People will finally learn that he wasn't an X-Men.
Yeah, so, and we're not going to get Bone Claws, hopefully.
You know what? Ever since the comics started using that because of the movie more, I've actually grown accustomed to the Bone Claws.
Really?
I actually like them. Because to me, here's why. I will add this in here.
It does make sense by all technicalities if you stop and you think about how is it that he has knives protruding and he has to learn all of the muscles to be able to activate them. Then, if he has it as a secondary bone system. If he has
the healing factor like originally was intended, but then they just add blades that start here and come out right here, because they don't actually come out between, they come out right here in the little holes he has in the comics. That doesn't make sense. Where are they? If it's bone claws that just grow, that retract from inside, his body compensated for it.
Yeah, because it's like, it's right in between the actual finger bones and then going right into, I am not going to attempt to botch what these bones are. I know one of them is like, I don't know. If you sit there and you have your arm like this and you twist, there's two bones right there. So right in the middle of that is where you can actually have the two bones.
I was always against the bone claws, but I've grown more accustomed to them when I think of it logically. Yeah. Logically in comic books. I know, don't question this, okay? But I think you start off with the bone claws, and then the adamantium grafting will be how he gets it, like originally.
Don't make the claws actually look like finger bones, though. Because
that was gross.
Made no sense.
That was gross too. Kind of disgusted me a little bit. Just make them sharp bones.
Yeah, like just bones. Make not the knuckles or anything. Just make it like how this bone actually looks.
Like a bone that rounds out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's pointy, and then you just add them. Because again, his claws aren't actual knives. They're just like pointy, deadly things that come out from right here and kind of go curve. So yeah, I think Wolverine origin story at some point.
Yes.
Done through flashbacks. You don't want to call it Wolverine Origins because that movie was already a masterpiece, so you can't touch it. Shh. Let me have my guilty pleasure. Remember the claw scene in the bathroom and the stairs? Or the ladder that falls and they didn't even CG the textures? That was great. That was great. So we're going to end our Wolverine discussion by saying no X-23.
Not first, at least.
Go watch Origins.